Alright, in part 2 of the video, we are going to finish our required reading, get to page 10, and we'll answer text opinion question number 1. I last left with just asking this question and writing it here. So we were asking, why does Cassie want to see Mr. Jameson so badly? I was kind of thinking back to what we learned about Mr. Jameson in the past, and we know that in the past, his name comes up when they're talking about their land. And if you think back to the previous chapters, we learned that Mr. Jameson's dad is the one who sells the Logan family some of their land. And if you go back to your notes, actually, it's even mentioned that they could have sold everything to somebody else, to another white family, but they actually sold part of their land to the Logan family. So maybe that could be part of the reason, and we'll see if there's any other reason why she wants to see him. But we're right here now on the bottom, at the bottom of page 6, so let's keep reading. I just wanted to see him, that's all, I said, going to the raised sidewalk and taking a seat. I liked Mr. Jameson, and I didn't mind admitting it. He came to see us several times a year, mainly on business, and although the boys and I were somewhat shy of him, we were always glad to see him. He was the only white man I had ever heard address Mama and Big Ma as Mrs., and I liked him for it. Besides that, in his way, he was like Papa. Ask him a question, and he would give you a straight with none of this pussyfooting around business. I like that. So there you have it, more reasons why he likes her. So he addresses her mom, and her grandma with respect, and he answers their questions respectfully too. After several minutes of watching farmers in faded overalls and their women in flower sack cut dresses promenading under verandas, TJ said, "Why don't we go on down to the Mercantile and look around?" TJ hesitated. "I don't know. I think Big Mom wanted to go with us." "Ah, shoot, man. We'll be doing her a favor. We go on down to the Mercantile now and order up our stuff. We'll save her some time, so when she comes from seeing that lawyer, we can just go on home. Besides, I got something to show ya." Stacy pondered the suggestion for a long moment. "Well, I guess it'll be all right," he said finally. Big Ma said stay here," I objected, hoping that Mr. Jameson would come out with Big Ma. "Stay here, then," Stacy called over his shoulder as he crossed the street with TJ. I dashed after them. I wasn't about to stay on that sidewalk by myself. The Barnett Mercantile had everything. Its shelves, counters, and floor space boasted items from ladies' ribbons to burlap bags of seeds, from babies' bottles to brand-new pot-bellied stoves. TJ, who had been to the store several times before, wove his way among the farmers and led us to a counter at the far corner of the room. The counter had a glass top, and beneath the glass were handguns artfully displayed on a bolt of red velvet. "Just look at it," TJ said dreamily. "Ain't she something?" "What?" I said. "The pearl-handed one. Stacy, man, you ever seen a gun like that before in your whole life? I'd sell my life for that gun. One of these days, I'm gonna have it too." "I reckon I ain't," said Stacy politely. "It's a nice-looking gun, all right." I stared down at the gun. A price tag of $35.95 stared back at me. $35.95? I almost screamed. "Just for an old gun? What the devil are you going to use for it?" "Can't hunt with it." TJ looked at me with disgust. "Ain't supposed to hunt with it. It's for protection." "Protection of what?" I asked, thinking of Papa's sturdy shotgun that hung over his and Mama's bed, and the sleek Winchester rifle which Big Mom kept located in the trunk underneath our own bed. "That thing couldn't hardly kill a rattlesnake." "There's other things a body needs protecting from more than a rattlesnake," he said haughtily. "I get me that gun, and ain't nobody gonna mess with me. I wouldn't need nobody." Stacy backed away from the counter. He seemed nervous being in the store. "We better get those things you need and get out of here before Big Ma comes looking for us." "Aw, man, there's plenty of time," said TJ, looking longingly at the gun. Sure wish I could just hold it just once." "Come on, TJ," ordered Stacy, "or me and Cassie's gonna go back outside." "Oh, all right." TJ turned reluctantly away and went to the counter where a man was measuring nails onto a scale. We stood patiently waiting behind the people in front of us, and when our turn came, TJ handed his list to the man. "Mr. Barnett, sir," he said, "I got me this here list of my things my mama want." The storekeeper studied the list and without looking up asked, You one of Mr. Granger's people?" Yes, sir, answered TJ. Mr. Barnett walked to another counter and began filling the order, but before he finished, a white woman called, Mr. Barnett, you waiting on anybody just now? Mr. Barnett turned around. Just them, he said, indicating us with a wave of his hand. What can I do for you, Miss Emmeline? The woman handed him a list twice as long as TJ's, and the storekeeper, without a word of apology to us, proceeded to fill it. What's he doing? I objected. Hush, Cassie, said Stacy, looking very embarrassed and uncomfortable. TJ's face was totally bland, as if nothing at all happened. When the woman's order was finally filled, Mr. Barnett again picked up TJ's list, but before he had gotten the next item, his wife called, Jim Lee, these folks needing help over here, and I got my hands full, and as if we were not even there, he walked away. Where's he going? I cried. He'll be back, said TJ, wandering away. After waiting several minutes for Mr. Barnett's return, Stacy said, Come on, Cassie, let's go. He started toward the door and I followed, but as we passed one of the counters, I spied Mr. Barnett wrapping an order of pork chops for a white girl. Adults were one thing. I could almost understand that. They ruled things and there was nothing that could be done about them. But some kid who was no bigger than me and was something else. Certainly Mr. Barnett had simply forgotten TJ's order. I decided to remind him, and without saying anything to Stacy, I turned around and marched over to Mr. Barnett. Okay, so just a moment to process what just happened. They're here at the store without their grandma, and TJ gives Mr. Barnett, the storekeeper, the list of the items he needs. So our question is Cassie facing any difficulties right now? And we do know that she's getting frustrated because she's saying things like, what's he doing? Where's he going? So we see, especially with when she's asking, where is he going? We know she's kind of getting frustrated because Mr. Barnett isn't filling TJ's order. Like, what is he doing instead? First, he's helping another white lady. Then his wife calls him over to help her. And then the cherry on top for Cassie is when she sees what he's doing, she's upset that he's what? She's upset that he's helping a little white girl. So she's upset because it's some kid who's no bigger than her. So in her eyes, she says maybe he forgot about our order. So I'm going to put these as difficulties. The fact that I think this part's important too, that finally he remembers TJ's orders, but then he suddenly gets called over by his wife. So we're pausing in a very interesting part because we're left with Cassie's going to go over to march. She's marching over to Mr. Barnett, and it's going to be really interesting to see what does she say and what's the consequence of that. So that's a little bit of a cliffhanger for tomorrow. But for now, I say we're going to choose a quote that really describes some issues that are going on. And I feel like I'm going to choose the one that says, let's see. We have the one where their wagons are in the back. We have the one where he's forgetting the list. Okay, so I'm going to choose this one. Where he's about to get to his list, but then he gets called over by his wife. So let's enter number 1. In the text, it says, remember, right-click, paste without formatting, add your quotes. This is coming from page 10. So this means, remember you guys are starting to fill this out, but I would basically say something along the lines of like, this means that Mr. Barnett isn't really prioritizing TJ's order, or it means that he's not really showing he cares very much about filling the order, something like that. So this shows that, or you can, even with that, this shows Cassie facing a difficulty because... Now here's where you have to ask yourself, like, technically it's TJ's list that's being ignored, but if you go back and see the details, is TJ really bothered by this? And the answer is no, right? He doesn't appear to be very bothered by this. But the person who is bothered is Cassie, so that's kind of where it becomes a difficulty for her. So the question is why? Why is it a difficulty for her? And just kind of give you a moment's thoughts. So this shows Cassie, I'm going to add an is facing a difficulty because she realizes that they're not being treated equally or fairly. So I think that's a big deal to her. And she tries giving him the benefit of the doubt right now. She knows that maybe he forgot, so we'll see where that goes for tomorrow. But that really concludes our video for today, so thank you for those of you who are watching.